orientation. Most people will attend this in person in the house, but we want to have this video available in case if anyone needs a refresher or wants to have this as backup. Ruth Willemane is the founder and visionary for Harmony House. She worked as a hospice volunteer for many years and noticed that there was a gap in the options for care for many people. There are people who need hospice care but don't have family members who can care for them or financial resources to be able to have the care in a place that they would like to be cared for. She did a lot of work to get this organization started and provided a lot of the care at the original house. Unfortunately, she is no longer with us and unable to see this house, but it is important to keep her in our hearts and minds as we provide the care here at Harmony House. This is a picture of the previous Harmony House on Pendleton Avenue that was open from 2016 to 2019. They were able to care for 36 residents in this very small home that was rented from a community member. We were able to purchase the current home that we have and renovate it and get it to the place where it is now, where we are able to care for up to 5 residents at a time, in addition to all the other spaces that we have. This is a pretty recent collection of our board of directors. We will update it from time to time with new members. Amy Cooper is the clinical manager, and Larry and Louise Bree are the facilities managers. Depending on the need or the issue happening at the house, these would be the contact people that you should reach out to. At Harmony House, we partner with hospice. Every person who moves into Harmony House is required to have hospice following them. Hospice, as a philosophy, is focused on providing comfort, dignity, and quality of life for individuals with life-limiting illnesses. There's a focus on pain management, support, spiritual care, and people are not continuing with any sort of curative or life-extending kinds of treatments. Hospice provides the support, medication support, clinical support, all of those kinds of things. We have partnered with a number of hospices in our area, as well as are willing to be partnering with other hospices in the area if they make referrals to us. Hospice is responsible for making all medical decisions with the resident and their family or healthcare proxy, and then we will implement those instructions in that care plan. Even if someone is a licensed professional in the medical field, at Harmony House, we are practicing as though we are families and must follow all instructions and guidance from hospice. Hospice has a number of different providers that are part of their team. They have a medical director as well as other prescribing providers such as nurse practitioners. Each resident will have a nurse case manager that is the primary person visiting them and responsible for their care. They typically visit a few times a week and work to order meds, set the care plan, everything like that. Hospice also has nurses and LPNs on call 24/7 for advice and support. They have home health aides that can help with personal care. They have social workers that can provide emotional support, life review, practical needs and concerns, funeral planning, things like that. Hospice also has chaplains and spiritual support that may be visiting our residents. They provide bereavement support to the family, as well as all of our durable medical equipment that we may need to care for each resident. We also work with other agencies and supports in the community. We have a bunch of music therapy. We may have other agencies coming in to provide care if that's something that the resident has set up already or wants. We have a team of vigil volunteers. We have pet therapy. We've had all kinds of things come into the home. Our caregivers provide a lot of different kinds of care, focusing on personal care, meals, laundry, cleaning, following the care plan for medications and caregiving. We focus on maintaining safety as much as possible, creating a peaceful environment, and privacy and confidentiality is super important for our team. We have two different roles for our caregivers. We have general caregivers and direct caregivers. The biggest difference is that our general caregivers do not administer medications and do not have to have training in that. Our general caregivers provide a lot of emotional, spiritual, and practical support to residents at whatever level they're comfortable, and they will assist the direct caregiver with needs for care and things around the house. Our direct caregivers have a little more education and instruction that they go through. They administer medications based on hospice's instructions. They document each care shift and count meds. They're responsible for any personal care needs that are necessary for each resident, as well as providing care, using medical equipment, things like that. Here's a few more examples of the kind of care that we may be providing. Some of it's personal care, some of it's more quality of life, spending time with a person, engaging in hobbies. A lot of time we spend following the care plan, collaborating with hospice, making sure that medications and care is happening as needed, and then a lot of communication between caregivers. We use a scheduling software called Volunteer Scheduler Pro, or VSP. Everyone will have a login to be able to sign up for shifts, and our shifts are about 4-hour shifts, 8 a.m. to noon, noon to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to midnight. We do ask for a half an hour overlap in there so that we can have a transition and collaboration. If you have any questions about that, you can always reach out, but it tends to work pretty seamlessly for us. We have a lot of other kinds of tasks that occur around the home. The biggest thing to pay attention to is that our priority is always the residents and their care and needs. So if there's anything that a resident may need or want, that is the priority for us, and we really focus on that. If all the residents are resting or have family members or hospice visiting or don't have any needs at that time, we may also be doing laundry, doing dishes, putting away supplies, any other kind of task around the house. We do have a list of the daily and weekly tasks. It typically lives in the kitchen, and that's a good way if there's some quiet time or downtime to see what can be done around the house to make sure that we can keep the house running, clean, smelling good, everything like that. We get many phone calls at Harmony House. If you're able to and it's safe to, please answer the phone. If not, it will go to voicemail. This could be hospice or the family calling for an update or to talk about a visit that they plan. If it is the family, we want to make sure that we're talking to the right people about the right person and that we are able to share information. Just because someone calls asking questions doesn't necessarily mean that we give them those answers. Sometimes people are calling for information about Harmony House. We do not offer tours unless it is arranged by the clinical manager or a board member. People stop by wanting a tour, they really need to schedule it. This is a private home where people are living, not a place that people can just drop by. We do have scripts for a few other things in the kitchen by the phone for referrals and people interested in volunteering. Those scripts are, if we have someone who is interested in referring someone, we have almost always a wait list and we triage from that wait list, so it's important to make a referral. The referral form is on our website under referrals, and people can also reach out to Amy Cooper via email with any questions or if they need a copy of that referral form a different way. If someone's interested in volunteering, we do have a volunteer application form on our website, or they can reach out to the admin at harmonyhousewma.org email with any further questions. It is best to do it that way. Emailing is the fastest way to communicate with our team, as we are typically working only part-time, and we will get back to people the quickest that way. If that is not an option, you can always take a phone number and leave that for the appropriate person down in the office, and we will get back to them as soon as we can. It will typically be a couple of days before we can get back to someone by phone. We get a lot of packages in mail at Harmony House. We have an Amazon wish list that people can order things off of and send to the house so that we have the supplies that we need. That's wonderful. Medications often arrive via FedEx, as well as supplies from hospice. Our residents may order things for themselves, so please bring in the packages, open them if needed, and we can sort those belongings and kind of put them in the appropriate place. We don't need to check the mail. Lisa checks the mail for us, which is great. But if you need to check the mail or there's some sort of issue, you can leave it down in the office. Food is such an important part of life, and at Harmony House, it's a really important part of what we do. We do complete meal assessments for each resident. It's a form that we fill out that goes in their record so that we can track allergies, likes, dislikes, patterns that they have. So you can always refer to that if you have any questions about how someone likes to eat. We're pretty flexible about eating, and we have a kitchen with a lot of different supplies, 2 stovetops, 2 microwaves. Family members can be cooking while caregivers are cooking. Residents can eat really anywhere that they would like to, in their rooms, in the dining room, outside. We try and be as accommodating as possible. We receive meals from a couple of different community organizations that supply us with cooked meals, which is really helpful. We also have some volunteers who cook and donate meals, as well as having some basics around the house that we can use to make meals for people. Our food coordinator handles all the grocery shopping, and there is a grocery list in the kitchen that you can add things to. Grocery shopping happens a couple of times a week, so try and add things early before we are completely out of them. We provide, 3 meals a day, snacks and drinks and things like that. If there are special requests or really, special meals or takeout or things like that, we do ask that family and friends bring those in for our resident for the most part. A few of our, food service safety guidelines, all prepared food items, so meals that are pre-made, we keep for about 3 days, and then they need to be discarded. We really want to be serving people fresh and good food, so 3 days is important. We should be labeling everything that comes into the house in terms of prepared meals, so that we know when they have been there for 3 days. They can either be thrown out or, a caregiver can eat them or a family member can take them home. Pretty flexible as long as everyone feels they're okay. We just don't serve them to our residents. We can freeze prepared meals if it's the kind of food that can be frozen well. We should relabel it when it comes out of the refrigerator or out of the freezer so that we know how long it's then again been in the refrigerator. Any food brought into the house for a specific resident, such as their family brings in for them or purchases for them or something like that, we should label with their name or initials so that we know whose it is. Otherwise, all food in the kitchen is to be shared between all residents, so it's important to label anything if it's for a specific person. If you have any requests for things for the Amazon wish list, that's really helpful. We can add those things if they are more non-perishable kinds of items. Otherwise, things can be added to the grocery list that we can have on the refrigerator for when Linda goes shopping. We often need to help our residents with their meals, and that can mean lots of different things. If we have a resident who can cook, they are welcome to do that. Often we are doing the cooking. We may even be helping with feeding our residents at times if they are unable to do that. We want to make sure that no one is lying flat while they're eating, lifting the head of the bed up as much as they can tolerate so they're in a more safe position to avoid choking. We can cover them with a towel or a bib if they're likely to spill, and that's something that they're okay with. We should check about any diet orders. Some people need food to be mashed or pureed. Some people need liquids to be thickened. We have a thickener agent in the kitchen if it's needed. We can always give suitable portions. That means, if someone has a very small appetite, we don't need to be giving them a, very large serving. Once food is served, we don't save it. We don't put it back in the refrigerator. It does need to be thrown out for food safety reasons. So we want to be kind of reasonable, but we can give people what they like. It's okay if we have to throw out food at times. we can help people with plates that don't slip over the bed tables, mugs and cups that have handles or straws. Be creative and think about it. And also just a reminder that eating and nutrition changes as someone approaches the end of their life. So we never want to push or overly encourage eating, as it can have other risks, but we always want to give people as much of what they want as we can. Reminder, we need to be cleaning, washing our hands, wiping down surfaces, wiping down countertops, handles, everything like that as often as possible, particularly before and after handling food, before and after using the restroom, all of those kinds of things. Anything uneaten, if we serve something to a resident and they eat half of it, we cannot put that back in the refrigerator or save that. It is not safe to do that. It should be thrown away. All dishes should be sanitized, which means putting it through the dishwasher if at all possible. I know some people prefer to hand wash, but that's not quite as clean and is more likely to keep contaminants. We should store food as safely as possible, so refrigerator, freezer, wrapped up in Ziploc bags, all of those kinds of best practices, and then just really being aware of expiration dates and any sort of spoiling that may happen and throwing things out. We have tons of supplies at Harmony House. They may be in different closets or storage places. We get a lot of things from hospice. Things are down in the basement. If you are looking for something and you can't find it, please feel free to reach out and ask for help. Look around. Don't be shy to look for whatever you need. I'd like to mention a few of the competencies. Some of these are only for direct caregivers, and we can provide further, more specific education as needed, but it's important to name some of the things that we do have in the house. We have gait belts. These are really important for moving and helping residents get around safely. It's important to avoid, grabbing someone by their arm. We could tear skin or cause a dislocation or something like that, so the gait belts are very helpful. We do have a Hoyer lift that we will use. It's important for every direct caregiver to practice with this and make sure they know how to use it. Hoyers should always have 2 people in order to operate them. So if you are taking someone out of bed using a Hoyer, make sure that they have an additional person to help put them back into bed in the future. So some planning is needed for this and making sure everyone is comfortable. We have positioning sheets as well. This can be really important for helping boost someone up in the bed, turn them side to side to provide care. We often have oxygen concentrators for our residents. These are provided by hospice, and there is instructions in our online training about how to use this. We do have a sit-to-stand lift in the house. It's important to know the difference between that and the Hoyer. This is for a very specific sort of situation when someone has quite a bit of strength and ability to stand, but just needs a little bit of help getting there. This would only be used with specific instructions. I'd like to mention some caregiver safety. This is really important for everybody who might be helping. It's really important to pay attention to body mechanics, making sure your body is straight, you're standing tall, protecting your spine. It's important to think about making sure the bed is raised up so you're not bending over too far, making sure that you're lifting kind of with your legs, not your back, all of those kinds of instructions and pieces of information to keep it in mind. It's best to transition between smooth surfaces, so having the bed and the chair at the same level if you're transferring someone, rather than trying to lift them up into something or down into something. We should use assistive devices whenever possible. So we have them there so that we can keep each other and our residents safe, so please use them. We have illness protocols. If there is an illness going around, we will send out specific protocols for that specific situation, so please pay attention to any guidelines. They will also be posted around the house. In case of COVID or some sort of other infectious illness, we will require PPE that corresponds with those guidelines. That could include an N95, gown, gloves, eye coverage. That will be all situation specific. And then we will need to do additional cleaning and disinfecting to make sure that everyone is as safe as possible. All of that to say, if you are sick, please stay home. Please do not come to Harmony House and get everyone sick and spread things around. We really don't want to have to deal with these kinds of things if at all possible. It's important to talk a little bit about when a resident dies, and this is a hard part of what we do, but a very important part, as it is expected for every resident who comes here to be here through the end of their life. The first thing that's really important is that this is not an emergency. This is not a moment to panic. This is not a moment to call 911. This is expected. And so it is okay to take a moment, to take a deep breath, to take care of yourself. If you need a moment to cry, that's okay. This is not an emergency. When you're ready, it's important to call both hospice and the clinical manager or person on call for Harmony House. Hospice will do a lot of things, but it's important to inform the clinical manager and person on call so that they can also provide support. Hospice will inform the resident's family, unless if the family is already present and already aware. Hospice will come to the visit. They complete a process to pronounce that the time of death has occurred. They will destroy all of the medications for us. They will provide support to the family and caregivers, and they can also assist with any sort of care needs that may happen at end of life. Our team can also assist with all of this. We can provide postmortem care. Some people like to be dressed in a specific way or positioned. There's a lot of different wishes or beliefs that if we know about them, we can definitely honor them. And then, it's okay to take some time. If family needs to come in from, an hour away or needs to be woken up and come to say their goodbyes, we are not in a rush. You can always reach out to the clinical manager or person on call if there's anything you're worried about related to this. But at any time when the family is ready and everything is complete, we can call the funeral home for the body to be picked up. Please always feel free to reach out if there are any questions or things that you're worried about at times like this. Provide a lot of different kinds of care for our residents. There's a lot of daily things that occur. It's important to think about things carefully when we're providing hygiene care at end of life. Any questions, please ask for help. And then we do our best to maintain a very clean, good smelling, safe environment. Trauma-informed care is something that I don't think everyone has heard about and is really an important part of providing care, particularly at end of life to vulnerable people. A lot of this is focusing on maintaining dignity, respecting privacy, making sure the door is closed if you're providing care, or using towels or blankets to cover people and only exposing them as much as necessary in order to provide the care that you're giving. It's important to communicate really clearly, talk about what you're doing, explain, ask permission, make sure that people know what's happening and are a part of the process. We do everything we can to make any care process as comfortable as possible. That means making sure the room is warm, that water is warm, that we're using a warm blanket if needed, that we are, moving slowly, giving people time to accustomize themselves to whatever is happening, catch their breath, whatever is needed. We always want to be professional and non-judgmental in our language. That means being mindful of some of the language that we might use about body parts, also avoiding terms such as honey or sweetheart or things like that that might not be person-centered and might be triggering or belittling for people. Trauma-informed care is a universal trauma-informed care which acknowledges that anyone or everyone could have a history of traumatic experiences that we may not know about. And so it's important to pay attention to each person that we're caring for and pay attention to their responses. If they respond, startled in some way or acting like they feel uncomfortable with something, that's something we should note and pay attention to and try and see if there's a way that we can provide care in a different way. Every resident has a record that we keep track of their care in. It is important for these to be very confidential. We keep them in our caregiver room behind a lock so that they're only accessible to our team. We don't share them with anyone, and they should only be accessible to our team and the hospice team. At times we have to destroy medications. This would be if we had a medication that was discontinued and we were no longer using it, if a medication fell on the floor and was contaminated for some reason. It's important to use the medication disposal bag. So this is a Ziploc or a specific bag that has either kitty litter, activated charcoal, something like that in it. You put the medication in there, add some water to mix it so that the contents of the bag can all kind of be absorbed together, and then you seal that bag and dispose of it in the trash. We never flush meds or put them down the sink or down the drain. We never throw medications just away in the trash. Everything needs to be disposed of this way. We do have incident reports at Harmony House for any sort of incident. We should also call the clinical manager or person on call in case of any kind of incident so that they are aware in the moment of anything happening. There are times that we would also report any incident to the hospice agency depending on the situation of the incident. We have incident reports in the blank forms binder in the caregiver room. They should be filled out as completely as possible and left for the clinical manager. Some examples of this would be a fall or an injury to a resident, a medication error, or the medication count being off, if medications are missing or anything like that. If there's any private information that is shared inappropriately, we should document that. If there are any caregiving concerns that you hear about or witness, we should be reporting those. And any other sort of safety issue or concern about abuse, all of these things should be reported and documented clearly. You can always email, text, or call the clinical manager if there's any need for supplies, if we are out of something or getting close to being out of something, or if any of our equipment is broken or malfunctioning, or if there's any sort of other issue in the house. Privacy and confidentiality is super important for us at Harmony House. We have a lot of people coming through the house, and it feels like a pretty casual environment, a pretty relaxed environment. So it's important to remember that confidentiality is not casual and relaxed at Harmony House. We do take it very seriously. This includes the resident, their family members and friends, the hospice team, all of our team at Harmony House, and any other visitors in the home. We cannot disclose all the basic things that HIPAA covers, such as name, date of birth, medications, diagnoses, things like that. We also should be really mindful about stories or any sort of thing that would identify a person. This includes photos. We need to be really careful and thoughtful. If there are photos taken, they should not be shared, posted, or anything confidential shared or posted. If we take a picture with a resident, it should be with their consent and them being fully aware of what we're doing. Even then, it cannot be posted or shared in any way. We have a few emergency procedures that it's important to go over. Whenever someone comes into Harmony House, no matter who they are, they should sign in to the book at the front door. This is literally for every single person that comes into the house, they should sign in. We can verify the identity of people. If we aren't sure who they are, we could ask the resident if this is someone they want to have visit, or find ways to make sure of that. Our new lock system on the door helps with this, as only people who have a code to get into the house should be able to get in without ringing the doorbell. We have emergency contact information posted throughout the house. This includes Amy Cooper, the clinical manager currently, any other person that might be on call, facilities managers, the Chicopee Fire Department non-emergency number that can be called for like a lift assist or some sort of assistance, as well as Chicopee Police for any sort of safety issue. We do have a Ring security cameras and security system at the house. Someone can show you this in the house at some point. There's an iPad that you can use to access the front door camera and doorbell so that you can talk to whoever is at the front door without having to open the door. The door remains locked at all times due to the code on the door that we have now. It's a little bit of an update. In case of a fire, call 911 immediately. We do have a fire suppression system that will report any sort of fire, but we don't want to wait for that to happen. So call 911 immediately and work on evacuating. We'll talk a little bit more about evacuation in a little bit, but do our best to get anyone who is in the house out of the house. We can, if possible, unlock any exterior doors to make it easier for emergency responders to get into the house. And if not, we do have a Knox box so that they can get in and get the keys to get into the house. Our assembly location is across the parking lot near the shed. We want to stay out of the way of any emergency vehicles coming in. Make sure you review fire extinguisher instructions and how to use them. They are located around the house. We also have a couple of fire blankets that can be used to put out small fires or used to protect people who maybe can't get out of the house in case of a fire easily. Right. In terms of other kinds of emergencies, we do have the potential for power outages. We do have a generator. It should kick on automatically and provide emergency power backup for everything. In case of that, we should check oxygen or anything else plugged into power, such as an air mattress on a hospital bed or any other sort of thing that we might be using. We do have flashlights in the kitchen. If lighting isn't working for some reason, although it should, please report any outage. We need to know it happened so that we can make sure that our propane is full and we have everything set up for any future outages. In case of any sort of hostile visitor, this could be a family member who is very emotional or someone from the outside coming in, please do your best to stay calm, remain neutral as much as possible, and do your best to avoid escalating any sort of situation. We should alert authorities. That could be calling 911 or using our silent alarm on the security system, and provide any details possible to help them help us. It is never your job to engage physically or fight anyone. Please get yourself and others to safety. If someone is there asking for meds or demanding meds, I would rather you give them medications and keep everyone safe. Evacuation is a really important thing to think about. So there are some different maps with all the evacuation routes. We do have 5 different exits in the house. 4 on the main level and 1 down in the very basement that is an external exit. Please get yourself and anyone you can safely out of the house in case of an emergency. There may be times where we have residents that we cannot quickly and safely get out of the house. That is why it is important to keep doors unlocked if possible and get outside to be able to tell emergency personnel. It is their job and they are the experts at getting people out. They have all the equipment that's necessary, so we should go out and then inform them of resident locations so that they can get people out safely. We do try to take the sign-in sheet out with us if possible so that we can keep track of who was in the house and that everyone has gotten out of the house and to the assembly point across the parking lot. Right, if you have any questions or comments, anything in the future, please reach out to either admin@harmonyhousewma.org or in person, and we can answer any questions. Thank you.